In today's video, we're taking to the skies, continuing the Pylon Redux series with a steampunk airship biodome for the Forest Pylon. A zeppelin, forest containment dome, floating islands, and more lie up ahead, so let's jump straight into it. Greetings friends, Khaios here. Welcome back to the Pylon Redux series where I build custom houses for each of the pylons in Terraria. I'm sorry this video is very delayed. I got pretty sick for a while there, then when I was starting to feel better and record, I learned that my microphone had completely stopped working, so I had to order a new one, wait for it to arrive, get it set up, and even rearrange my entire home office to make it work. So now we have a new mic, I'm feeling healthy again, and we're diving straight back into the grind. Previously in the series, we covered pylons for the jungle, ocean, mushroom, aether, underworld, halo, and universal pylons. And today we're going to be covering the forest pylon. If you missed any of the previous builds and you'd like to see how they came out, you could find a link to the playlist in the description. 6 years ago, for the original forest pylon build, I made an asteroid base biosphere up in space. For the Redux, I want to take that concept and make a twist on it. So I've taken the pylon randomizer and lowered it down to the ground so we can build in the sky above, where I'll be setting up a steampunk themed airship carrying a biodome which will house the forest pylon and the NPCs needed for it. Then at the end of the video, I will roll the randomizer once again to find out which of the 3 remaining pylons we'll be building next. So be sure to stick around for the end of the video to see what's coming up, and leave a comment telling me what you think the next pylon design will be. And quickly, before we get started, I have a new variety gaming channel called Chaos Theory. The second video just dropped where I build a cozy hobbit hole in House Flipper 2, and I'm currently working on a big Subnautica video for the following week. If you want to support me and check out my other projects, please consider watching my most recent video and checking out the channel, which is linked below. Now, let's get into the air and start to frame this techie build. To kick things off, I'm going to be building the balloon of the Zeppelin. To get a canvas-like material, I went with yellow painted flinks fir block. Brown painted bamboo simulates ropes holding it into shape. I experiment with actuators and illuminate coating. When I'm mostly happy with it, I jump to working on the body of the airship. I've built a few Zeppelins in the past, but I haven't done one with a sailship design, so I'm going to go with that this time, using brown painted large bamboo to shape the structure. And while I make the airship float, if you'd like to help keep this channel afloat, consider checking out my Patreon or become a YouTube member for various different rewards. Anyone who helps the channel out is greatly appreciated. Ultimately, I decided to make this look a little bit bigger because I felt it was too small for the size of the airship. Obviously, I actuated it and I illuminate coated it because I feel like if I light the airship up enough, it won't matter if it glows at night, and I think it'll still look good. So the next thing that I'm going to work on is the biome sphere. I mean, obviously it's 2D, so it'll just be a circle. I don't really want to make it a dome this time. It is, but it's not going to be one, I think. So I want to have a circle that cuts through the entire ship. Part of it will poke out the bottom to create like an observation deck of the area down below, and then part of it will be up top where we'll have things like the grass, trees, and rock. So maybe we have it 35 blocks in length and have it cut down to the bottom like that and more exposed along the top. That might look pretty good. So I think I'll start that around here, and we'll just make a circle out of this. Let's make sure that it's centered how I want it to be though. So if that's going to be the middle, it'll be 17 blocks to the left and 17 blocks to the right. 18 including the one in the middle. I'm gonna try right here. If I don't like it, I could always rebuild it or relocate it in T-Edit. But let's go ahead and quickly build a circle. All right, so with the circle here, I think I want to have the dirt kind of dip down so that way we have more space for trees. I didn't want this being really high up and pressing up against the blimp or anything like that. I'll also make this glass a bit thicker just by lining the inside of it. Actually, let me just do that real quick. So what I'm thinking is we have a little bit of a throughway right down here with a bit of a metal divider. That way we could walk across the deck without having to go into the biosphere. Then the upper segment can have the dirt in it. Maybe we go some parts where it's a little bit higher, other parts where it's a bit lower. With an exit on each side. Now that I think about it, this is feeling a bit too low, however. I'm thinking maybe we bring this up so that way we've got more space for the trees to grow in. I might be able to squeeze one or two really tiny trees in here, but you know what? I am going to just hop into T-Edit and we're going to bump this up a few and just have the very, very bottom peeking in the observation deck rather than this large segment over here. I think that'll end up looking better. So let me just go ahead and redo this and relocate it just a few blocks higher. All right, this feels quite a bit better. I've got some more wiggle room for the trees, so I'm just going to plant some grass over the top here and we'll get started on them. To start off with, I'm going to actually place a wall at every slope point because I'm going to be breaking all of these blocks in order to give myself the space needed to plant and grow a bunch of trees. I don't want to have to recount all of the tiles in order to build the circle again, so the walls will just help me replace all of the glass when I'm done. Now, I want these trees to be very short. Actually, that's pretty perfect as long as it doesn't go well past the wall. I don't mind if they go into the glass blocks a little bit, but I don't want them poking through onto the other side. So that's actually a really nice sized tree. That's a really nice sized tree too. I'm getting a lot luckier than I thought. Yeah, that one's gonna be a redo. This one might work. I'm gonna have to test it out and see. This also might be too close to the edge, but let's grab our glass and we'll just follow this all the way through and make it thicker. No, I think that's actually perfect. I think that's gonna work great. Like I said, I don't mind if it goes into the glass because it's meant to be like a dome or a sphere. So there's going to be parts where it looks like it's in the glass and parts where it's not. I just don't want it poking through, and that looks like it's as close as we're going to get. So I think that's probably pretty good. So let's just swing down to the pylon randomizer and grab the pylon. I'll place another one there in T-Edit later. You can only place one of each pylon, but if I use T-Edit to force it, I can get more than one. And we'll just put that right there. I think that's even in the middle. And we'll adjust the terrain so that way these trees aren't right on the very, very edge. And I'll end up planting some bushes and other things in here later when we get to the decorative phase. I just wanted to get the trees in immediately. That way we could get all of the blocks in and start working on the walls after that. Before we get to the walls, there are some other block related things that I do want to do. Let me just refill in this dome. Perfect. And I think it might also look good to have the captain's cabin here stretch out and connect all the way to this sphere in the middle. Probably end up cutting into it a little bit as well. And then we could have a ladder that connects these decks over here. I do want to have a stairwell on this side, I think. Maybe about here. Actually, maybe I'll go all the way to the end. We could have a stairwell that leads us down here and another ladder right here. So what I'm thinking is, on a ship, usually the wheel would be like back here above the captain's quarters. But I think for this airship, you'd want to see the ground below. You'd want to see out in front of the ship. I'm going to actually build a cockpit right in here in the bow of the ship. I think this is a nice looking place for it. I considered maybe building one up here and just having it like it flat out here and then a little archway with a cockpit. But I think this is just going to look better all around. I might keep tweaking with this a little bit, but I think this is going to look pretty good. Now, with the airship, obviously we're going to attach it to this big blimp, but I also feel like there should be some sort of propulsion. So I want to have a boiler room down here for some steam power, and maybe a really large engine here with some propeller blades that come out the rear. So before we build the engine, let's start with the propeller blade. So I think it'll just run into the engine room like that, and then run out here as well. Then for the propellers themselves, let's grab gray paint and lead brick. That's a little dark. We might actually go with white paint for this. Yeah, I think that's gonna look a lot better. So we'll use lead brick and we'll make a small set of propellers right here. Then a larger set right here. Probably don't need any of that excess. I don't think I'd want a third propeller on here. I think 2 will look just fine. Then we could use some of the copper or tin plating to make some accents. I'll actually want these to be painted gray, actually. Then maybe at the very, very end of it, we place a red light from the Christmas lights. I think that'll look pretty good as well. And then we can make a connecting point where this will come in to the engine. So maybe a couple of these that run into here. Something like that should look pretty good. This is looking kind of thin for how big the propellers are. So let's grab some Purple Rain wallpaper and just run it behind the blocks. Now we're gonna have a slight issue right here. You see it doesn't poke through because of these sloped blocks. However, I believe if I were to grab some rich mahogany beams or any beams or columns of work, I can get rid of that block and place one there. I don't want this cog spinning there, so we're going to get rid of that block and place one there as well. And that will, because these are furniture and not blocks, they won't actually prevent the walls from popping through. I don't know, it's weird. It's just the way it is. So we'll grab some white paint and some more of that Purple Rain wallpaper and just expand the connecting bit right there as well. And now let's grab the grand design and we'll place a whole bunch of actuators on this thing. And I'm going to actuate the one on the upper right and the one on the lower left. That way they're alternating. And you'll see if we were to hook this up to a 1/4 second timer, then it'll look like we've got some spinning propeller blades. Now the 1/4 second timer is the fastest timer that we have, and this is a little slow. I'd actually like this to be quite a bit faster, and I have an idea for that. We'll get to that in a moment. But before we do, one last thing that I want to do these propeller blades is actually take some unpainted honey and just make the tips golden. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, so let's come into the engine room real quick before we talk about doing a custom timer. And let's grab gray paint and we'll expand this cog out, and I'll show you what I have in mind for the engine. I don't know how far I'll need to go. It's not going to be super big. So what I'm going to do is grab 3 detonators, and these are going to work like pistons for a steam engine. So when you have a detonator, you can right click it to send out a signal. But if you have a signal feed into the detonator, it'll actually do something different. It'll lock the detonator in the down position. You can no longer click it. You can't jump on it. It is locked. It doesn't work at all. But if you run a wire signal into it again, it'll unlock and you can activate it once again. That means we could have something where we have a locked detonator right here, then an unlocked one right here, and we'll just give this a little flick and we'll place another one right here. That way we have 3 detonators that are in an alternating pattern, and now whenever the timer is on, these look like they're pistons that are pumping up and down while the propeller blade spins, and I think it looks pretty good, honestly. So we're going to get rid of that timer for the moment. We'll build out the engine, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do for the custom timer. So I want this engine to cut into the room a little bit so it looks a bit more stable. So I'm going to do the same thing on both sides, cutting into the floor and into the ceiling, and just running to the edge of the line right here. Actually, maybe I'll put it right up against the piston like this. And just so it looks like it's more supported, I'll even run it outside of the rear like this. And these 2 wood bits, let's go ahead and swap them out with some gray painted palladium column. It'll make it look a little bit more metallic. Then with tin plating, I'll just run this over the front like a front, I guess, shield casing or something like that for the engine. I'll leave a space right here, and we'll put 2 glass blocks to make it look like there's a window looking inside so you can see the engine running. We'll slope this and grab a bunch of cog walls and run them back here. I'll do purple rain wallpaper right there behind the glass. And everywhere that we have all of these teeny tiny little air gaps that you see, I'll just fill those in with some copper plating wall. That's looking pretty good, but let's take some forbidden platform, run it over the top, then some silly green balloon, and we'll break some of this tin plating and just do every other tile with the silly green balloon. And there we go. I think that looks pretty good as the engine. Let's go ahead and just wire this up to the 1/4 second timer again, just so we could see it in action. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I hope you all are too. So let's talk about how we're gonna do a custom timer. I'm just gonna head down here, and several weeks ago I put out a video on target dummies and how we could use them in very different ways. One of the ways that I set up was using target dummies with some hoik tracks and teleporters to make a custom timer, namely timers that can go faster than a 1/4 second. But those are very, very loud because, well, teleporters are very loud. So I got to thinking, maybe there's a way that I could redesign the target dummy timer without teleporters, and I think that I can do that. So I'm just going to place down some blocks. Our target dummies will be, one of them will be sitting right there, and the other will be a short distance away. This is where the bars are going to sit for the teleporter levitation. The teleporter will be sitting on top of that, and then I just need a space beneath that. And below this, we just need to build a hoik platform. So what I'm thinking of doing is having a pressure plate sit right in this little gap. I'm going to use a red pressure plate because I could show you what's happening with my character. Red pressure plates can be triggered when anything steps on them, whether it's a player or an NPC. Then we need to have this. Actually, this needs to be one more to the left. So if you didn't catch the video where I talked about the target dummies, I'm going to just briefly cover what's going on here. The target dummy is actually two entities. We have the furniture piece that we could see, but there's also an invisible thing sitting in front of it. When we attack it, we're not hitting the furniture piece, we're actually hitting an invisible NPC that's standing right there. So if we were to take some blocks and on top of them place a teleporter, a couple of bars, and a target dummy, when we break the teleporter, we cause the furniture levitation glitch and we can remove these blocks. Now you'll see if I attack the target dummy, nothing happens. That's because the NPC that spawns in front of it doesn't furniture levitate and it just falls to the ground. And you'll see I'm actually able to hit it down here. So this NPC, when we levitate target dummies, can fall and hit things like pressure plates, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing here. So we need to have the target dummy ghost fall into this area and get caught by hoiks. Now these two on the left side are going to prevent anything from being shot out to the side. We don't want the target dummy to end up over here and falling off the edge. The three on the top and right of it will actually catch the target dummy ghost and send it off to the right. So just as an example, I could walk in here and the second I hit that pressure plate, I get shot off to the side. Now from here, we just need to have the target dummy enter a hoik track. Normally, what I would do is just have a row of blocks like this, slope them all into this direction, and that would give us what we need. As you can see, they all shoot me over here, but in the previous designs, I had a teleporter on this end to bring the target dummy back to the left and just go back and forth. But the teleporter, again, very loud. And I was thinking maybe we could do this a different way. If we had a space every other block, this will still work. Which means we could actually set this up so that way we have two directional hoik. So now we'll have one hoik track that pushes us to the right and one that pushes us to the left. We just need to get them so they're not both active at the same time. So we're going to turn those off, and all of the arrows that are pointing to the right, I'll turn those off as well. Then on this end, I will build another little catch system that we have on the other side, but pointing in the opposite direction. Then we just wire everything up. And now, when I hit this pressure plate, all of these hoiks will swap, so they push me to the right. I'll hit this pressure plate, these ones will swap again, catch me, push me to the left, and we'll just go back and forth over and over again. Now, if I tie this up to the propeller, then every time one of these two pressure plates gets triggered, the propeller will spin. And obviously, it's not going to be activating with us in it, it's going to be doing it with the target dummy ghost. So all we need to do at this point is place a teleporter, two bars, and a target dummy over the top, Before I break that teleporter, I'm actually going to echo coat the target dummy, because if I were to levitate it first and then echo coat it, it causes a block update. The target dummy will realize that it's not supposed to be levitating and it will break itself. Now we can break the teleporter and the target dummy falls, and it's currently just sitting right here. This is going to be a part of the problem. If we have one target dummy, it could start off here and then go back and forth, but when we leave the area or log in and log out, it can end up into this orientation where it's unable to fall back and hit the pressure plate. So in order to fix that, I'm actually going to use two target dummies. And now both of the target dummies are in the hoik track. They're moving at the same speed. They're both hitting the pressure plates at the same time. And we have a functional timer that makes our engine look like it's being powered a little bit faster than the quarter-second timer. If I wanted it even faster than this, I would just need to close the distance between the two of them. But I think this is actually a pretty good speed. Now, I don't want these going on for the entirety of the build, so what I'm going to do is just place a couple of blocks over these. Then I will despawn the target dummies by just going somewhere like the ocean. And right now the target dummy ghosts are just sitting on top of these blocks. I can delete the blocks at the very end when I'm ready to go. And the timer will start every time we are in the area. So I'm just going to echo coat this so it's completely hidden away. I'm wearing Spectre goggles right now, which is why nothing's actually turning invisible, but it's not that big of a deal. So, oh, missed one. We'll end up with an engine that we can't even see, and the most noise that we'll get out of it is a rapid clicking, but that's not nearly as sound offensive as the teleporter is. So up next, I'm going to do small things like tidy up the blocks around the area, maybe have areas where it's exposed glass be copper plating, tin plating, fix the floors and stuff like that. Then we'll kick up a time lapse and we'll get to placing all of the background walls. I made a couple of small edits. Mostly, I lowered a couple of ceilings. I felt like the captain's quarters were just way too open for a ship, even an advanced steampunk airship. And I also did the same over here by lowering the top deck just a little bit, just a couple of blocks. It gives a more interesting shape overall, and it gives a slightly lower ceiling. Now, it's still full length right here, but I don't think that's too big of a deal because we have this walk-up for the cockpit. There'll be a chair here, a control console eventually. It's also full length for the observation deck, but also I don't think that's too big of a deal. And I got rid of the floor separating the engine room from what will be the water storage and boiler. I just want these to be open up. So I'm going to build a water tank right over here, then some big fiery contraption to turn it into steam, pipes leading to the engine, pipes leading out above, and we'll hide some chimneys with some echo coating. So firstly, let's give a little bit of a walkway from the engine to the ladder. I think that'll be pretty good. And then underneath this, we will have a large water tank. Now, I'm debating whether this tank should go all the way down to the floor, which would make it quite a bit larger, and which would make the most sense, or have it to where I could walk under it to get to what will eventually be the boiler. Also, to make more space here, I might flatten this out rather than have it at an angle. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'll give that some thought as well. I think this will look best being an absolutely behemoth of a tank, maybe just a little bit thinner to give more room for the fire for the boiler. Maybe we could have it where it cuts into the floor a little bit with some copper plating, and we'll just put this down here as well. Then obviously we're going to fill that up with water, but before I do, let's grab some aquarium stuff. Namely, we're going to grab aquarium wall, and we'll fill this area in behind it just to give more animation and texture to the water that'll be inside of the tank. While I'm at it, I'll place a couple of walls there to get rid of those teeny tiny little air gaps. Then we will just fill this up. And let's use purple rain wallpaper behind the glass because we've been doing that everywhere else on the build already, and I do want it to match. So we've got a large tank of water now. I do want to give myself some more space back here. I just feel like it's a little too tight. So I don't want it to be perfectly at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to try and come up with something that's a bit in between. There we go. It's a little bit more room. Now, since this is going to have a big raging fire, let's just replace a good segment of the floor with something more metallic. I'm thinking maybe a campfire with black paint because it kind of looks like it'll be coal at that point. Then we will have the smokestack carrying out. We could just replace this wooden beam. I mean, we could even just leave the large bamboo as wooden, but replace the color of it to make it look more like a smokestack, so that way we could have some sort of escape for the engine that will be running back here. I do like the way that the black painted wood looks. I do think it looks a bit more like coal. That way we could just build a custom boiler around it. I wonder if it'll look any good to have a bubble machine on top of this. Although some of the bubbles will end up being colored, I wish it looked more like the bubbles that produce when you're in the water and you're suffocating or drowning. But maybe this will look okay if this area was filled in with water. Let's see. Let's try making a tank for some more water over here. I'm going to actually make this tank a little bit thinner so that way I can have some pipes working through here, not have it be so close. I think that'll actually look a lot better. So let me just alter this tank a little bit and see if we could set up a water tank here and if it looks okay with these colored bubbles or not. I tried several different ways of building a tank that had actual water in it. Ultimately, I think it's going to look best if I just have something that is not visible in the water department. The bubbles just weren't working out for me, so I'm going with gray painted slime block, maybe some frozen slime to separate it into 3 segments just to make it look a little bit more interesting. Now, in order to get the water from the tank to the boiler, I could just do something like dynasty wood for pipes, but we're going to instead grab some aquarium block because it's already going to look like it has water flowing through it. And we'll just connect it over like this, maybe right over to here. And it kind of looks like water's pulsating through it. At the connection points, I will use some gray painted iron brick because I don't want this little bit of coral right there at the bottom. Now we will grab some of the dynasty and put that wood up to the engine just like that. That way it looks like we've got some water going into the boiler and then steam will be pumped into the engine, and then we'll just make a smokestack that carries smoke from the fire out above. And this will be pretty simple. We'll just paint that wall, the large bamboo wall, gray. I'm thinking maybe white, but we'll do gray for now. And we will carry this straight up from here. maybe to about that height. Then we'll line this with echo wall. I'll avoid the one right there over the fence just because that's not looking so hot. Now, I want to use a chimney to get smoke particles, but I don't want to actually see the chimney. So I'm just going to grab one and we'll place it right on top of these platforms. Then we will wire it up and activate it. Get rid of the switch, and we will echo coat the platforms and the chimney. And it looks like I kind of missed the pipe a little bit, so I'll just grab some more gray paint and we'll just raise the large bamboo wall so it lines up with the smoke. And there we go. We have the smokestack for the boiler, which will now be powering the engine, or at least it'll look that way. Now that I'm looking at it, let's just replace that glass with aquarium. No, let's replace that glass with some iron brick. There we go. The reason I didn't put this directly against the floor is because the wood would blend with the aquarium and the aquarium block would look weird. I think it'll look better, it'll work better if I just have it lifted off the floor a little bit. Now up here, it might look decent to have just a couple of rows of levers. Make it look like it's a part of the control room for the engines, or maybe two of these could be switches, or maybe not, because apparently that's going to connect to the beam. And that just looks really weird. Yeah, we'll go with the levers there. It's dawning on me that the wire runs through the campfire. That way we don't have our boiler fire flickering every time the engine's running. So I need to make sure that that's not connected, and that should be good there. Now I want to try and work some sort of piping that runs from the engine to the cockpit. And it'll be mostly implied. I think this will mostly be done with Dynasty wood with white paint and actuators. So you know what, let's just go down to 2 levers here. And then we will run this behind there. It'll come out down here, run across, then dip down, come out down here, go across there. We'll open the door in that direction and have the pipe come out here, have it cross here, and then down into the floor. It's a little zigzaggy, but I think that's the best way to have it visible without making it look like it's just lining into the floors and walls of the deck. Obviously, if you were to actually build this, it would probably be hidden within the floors. I think it just looks a little bit more interesting this way. So we're gonna do it like this. Why not? And we'll just actuate all of those blocks. If you're wondering what these wires here are, those are just leading all of the way up to the randomizer that we have in the sky for the pylon selector. Look at that, we're down to 3 options. When I showed this in the first episode, there were 11. So it's been shrinking slowly over time. I do knock a logic gate off of that every time we knock one out to take it out of the randomizer. Now, for the cockpit, I want to have a swivel chair. And in order to do that, there's a few different options. We could do something like maybe a gray painted honey chair. We could also do an office chair, which isn't bad. I might go with that one. I'm not entirely sure yet. Some other chairs kind of look like they could be swivel, like the Hello chair. It could even be something really bulky, like the slime chair. I think I just unpainted the wall back there, but that's okay. But I think I might actually just go with the deskwear chair because this one looks pretty good. It looks like it's techie it fits the swivel look that I'm going for, and it looks decent when it's not painted, so it's not so blended in with the background. It looks like my void bag is also full, so I need to empty that out. But yeah, I think that's the chair I'm going to go with. Let me just quickly figure out what I'm going to do for a control console, and maybe add some switches and levers around as well. Alright, I think this turned out pretty good. So we have the deskwear chair. I also got a deskwear candle here. It kind of looks like a small little monitor. We even used a golf tee for a control lever and a steampunk workbench. Now, speaking of steampunk furniture, I think I'm going to use the lanterns to light up the place. After I'm done lighting up, I'm not going to jump straight to decorating. I do kind of want to do a lot more work in this little biome area than just the trees. I might even knock out one of the trees and do a little rock feature in here. But furthermore, I want to make some sky islands that are floating around this blimp. And I also need to attach the actual, I guess, balloon to the airship itself. So we have quite a bit more to do. I'll save decorating for the final look. So let's go into a time lapse and start working on some of those sky islands. Now we have some floating sky islands. I might do some more decorative bits to them, like critters or stuff like that. I will also speed up time and grow out some vines. I even put some actuated echo platforms to stop the vines at the lengths that I want them. I just haven't done the actual speeding up of time yet. And we're getting pretty close to finishing up the build, getting to the decorative stage, and jumping to the final look. But first, I want to connect the balloon with the airship, and I gave this a lot of thought. I thought maybe I could use rope, but it's a little thin and wouldn't look super sturdy, so I thought maybe some brown painted actuated rich mahogany to look like a thicker rope. But then we run into issues like sloped blocks where it runs into this, and as you can see when I'm holding my inventory, I think the solution that I'm going to be going with is just using some chain that goes all of the way down to the airship, and at points where it hits a sloped block, like right around here, I adjusted the dome to have a metal bit here, and then I'll use wrought iron fence to connect the two because it kind of looks like a chain link anyway, and I think that works pretty well all in all. The only spot where it's going to look a little odd might be right here, because we don't have the means of going behind it. Even that I think will look just fine if I just run through the glass, so it should be fine over here as well. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with chain. It's a nice decent connection point. And we'll even use wrought iron fence here to make sure that it actually fully connects with the bamboo that I'm using for a rope up above. And just like that, we have the airship connected with the balloon. Now the balloon still feels a little small, so I think I might go into Tiedit and make it a bit thicker. I'm happy with the length of it, but I feel like it still looks a little small for the size of the airship. So I think increasing the thickness of it should help out with that, make it feel like it's more likely to actually support a structure of this size. And now I'm going to start working on the final details, swapping out some of the materials, getting a bit more variety in the build itself. We'll work on decorating it, get the captain's quarters in, probably a little storage area over here. I need to make sure that we have valid housing, so maybe a little seating area down here. That way we can get 2 NPCs moved in, or maybe set up something in here where an NPC can move in right next to the pylon. Either way, we're going to finish up the build and jump to the final look. And here we have the final version of the Forest Pylon steampunk airship. I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out, and I even went ahead and added an off switch for the propeller in case people find that clicking annoying. This was actually really simple to do. All I did was add some wire to this switch and connect it to these 3 and these 3 hoiks, and it'll just invert their position. So instead of pushing the target ghost dummies left and right, they're currently stuck in between these two, just bouncing back incredibly quickly, but not being able to hit the pressure plate, so they are off. And if I were to move away and despawn, the similar thing would happen. This one would land up here, this one would fall down, hit the pressure plate, it would swap everything, then they would get stuck over here. No big deal. So we push that lever again, it re-swaps these 6 hoiks, and everything starts working. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So I hope you all enjoyed this build. I had fun building it, but don't leave just yet, because we are going to well, actually we're going to fly up into the sky first, load in this target dummy, then head back down to spawn. We'll hit the randomizer and find out what we're building next. Apparently that goes through one of the cannons. I didn't realize that. That's kind of funny. Up next, we'll be building the desert pylon. I've got a really interesting idea for this, so I hope you all are excited for it. If you are, be sure to make sure that you're still subscribed so that you're more likely to catch my videos when they're uploaded. And if you want to check out my non-Terraria content, be sure to swing over to Chaos Theory, linked in the description. I've got 2 videos out so far, and I'll be dropping a Subnautica playthrough soon. A huge thank you to my biggest supporters for the month: Kasu, Slathozar Porb, Pombo, and Matthew Sedgwick. And be sure to check out my channel artist, MythicalWater, linked in the description below. Thank you all very much for watching. Be back soon with a new video. Happy building.